Hey, what up, boxing fans? This is the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Chris Carlson. We're live, per usual, on a Wednesday. Had to start 30 minutes late because of technical issues, but it looks like we got that all cleared up. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Obviously, it'll start with some recap from last weekend's Showtime doubleheader. We'll talk about the undercard off TV fights as well. Errol Spence took care of business against Lamont Peterson, looking pretty damn good. Peterson showed heart at times in the third, fifth round, but other than that, very, very dominant. With the co-feature, though, we had a tight fight. We had a very tight fight. Very interesting fight there. So we'll definitely get in that. That was between Fortuna, who was the underdog coming in, and Robert Easter Jr., which I thought this was a very, very competitive fight. So we'll definitely go round by round. We'll also look at what we got coming up this weekend. HBO has a doubleheader. We won't, to be honest, we're not going to spend a ton of time on the HBO doubleheader. However, the World Boxing Super Series returns in Recap-Usyk versus Marius Briedis is going to be interesting. Definitely, it's the first of the semifinals for that Super Series in the cruiserweight and in the super middleweight, technically, right? So I'm looking forward to that. It's a good fight. It does suck that we didn't get it here. We didn't get the programming on TV here. I'm assuming they'll live stream the fight. They'd be pretty silly not to. But anyway, we'll definitely preview and predict that. And then we're also going to have to take a look at the announcement today for Showtime Boxing for the first half of 2018. We got some really interesting fights in there. Adonis Stevenson versus Badu Jack. Leo Santa Cruz, Abner Mares rematch. There's also Adrian Broner and Omar Figueroa, which is kind of an interesting fight in my eyes as far as style goes. Of course, Wilder and Ortiz is another big fight out of that. And then some interesting fights as well to go along with it. Lara and Hurd, a good style matchup. So we're going to break that all down. Also, Andre Ward is in the news. He recently was on his social media kind of stirring the pot of a comeback. And when I say comeback, I'm using that word pretty loosely, right? Fairly loosely, because we all knew he wasn't really going anywhere. No, I shouldn't say we all knew. But, we'll talk about it. There are some other news across the globe. Shouts out to the UK, of course. They got an interesting fight that we'll talk about, a fight that people have been wanting for a while. So we'll cover you on fight news and rumors. No doubt about it. But if this is your first time listening to the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast, you can check it out live every Wednesday here, 6 on the West, 9 on the East, 2 UK time, blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It streams live for 2 hours, has an extra hour, and it archives all together. But if you call 646-381-4990, and you can just sit there on the line, you don't have to talk, but a lot of people kind of go about their day and night, I should say, and listen to the show. So just a heads up there. But once again, you can also check out the podcast at Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes. You could rate and review the show there. Player FM is another good place for sports podcasts. I know I listen to some stuff there. Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud, yada, 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 right? Whole lot of different outlets. And also, the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast a while back became a member of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. Everything from boxing to football to basketball, whole lot of different stuff. Some great interviews as well, either with fighters now or in the past, or just athletes in general. Go ahead and visit thegruelingtruth.net. It's also available on iHeartRadio, where I told you about the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast on iTunes and all those places. Well, the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast it's also there. The network, it's also available on that as well. They got a great sponsor over there, mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. Go ahead and visit thegruelingtruth.net. So anyway, there was a really weird sound behind me. I hope nothing just fell or something. I don't know what the hell happened behind me. But anyway, let's get to it. And before we get into the fights, I gotta say kudos to Showtime. Now there's going to be some, more high-profile fights, Wilder Ortiz and Stevenson, Badu, Jack, the ones where you're like, okay, I really can sink my teeth into it. And then there's going to be some just good matchups, good style matchups. And there may be some in there kind of thrown in there where you're like, all right, that's just a fight to build to a next fight. You're not going to get, elite going against elite through the whole schedule. I don't think that's really a realistic way to look at it. Now, do I want it? Yeah, but you got to build to certain fights as well. So I really like, though, how they do this. We've talked about it. I think it happened in the spring 2016 is when they started just kind of trying to keep as much, it's really hard to keep this stuff quiet, but they try to get as many details of the fight done. Most of them have venues, some of them don't. Some of them are very close to being done as far as venue. The fight's done. But I really like how they do that. They kind of come with a splash. They get social media talking, whether it's negative or positive. Most of it's at least positive because, we know Showtime is definitely invested in the sport. That's something you can't deny, no doubt about it. But they really went all the way with it today. They were in New York City. They had all the fighters up on stage. They made them available after to the media. There was Sports Illustrated. I mean, I saw a variety of people tweeting about it from guys that are and gals that aren't normally at these events, especially pressers, So it was a pretty cool theme to it. I liked how they did it. They announced everybody, kind of went head-to-head with who you're fighting, and then you answered a couple of questions on stage, moved on to after that. I just thought they did a great job with it. It was really cool. You could stream it live. I think they're doing a good job with that, man. That's something we haven't really seen much of. We've seen some press conferences and traveling all over the place. Canelo and Mayweather went everywhere. Of course, Mayweather McGregor was pretty funny recently. Some say, may say that was the most entertaining part of the whole event. So, but you can't really deny that, right? But I just like it. I like it. It really shows you something. I thought it was actually smarter to wait until this little gap between the NFL conference finals and the Super Bowl, because they did it last year, I should say for last year in the spring of 2000, or I'm sorry, the fall of 2016, somewhere in October or November. And if you think about it, it's just, that is a whole lot of stuff that happens. You have baseball, right? The MLB playoffs, and then the World Series. You have the start of basketball that always gets a little buzz and attention. Then you have college football peaking not once, but twice, late November, December, and then in January. And then the NFL is strong and taking over anyway. But in January, that's the main topic, right? So it is kind of smart to kind of get here. And if you look at the ratings, compared to last year to this year, I think that that there's something to be said about kind of shooting your load pause too early and before those fights start. So we'll go over the details and whatnot. We'll go recap, then we'll go news, and then we'll look for this weekend. Like I said, there is a doubleheader on HBO. The main event. Well, both fights stylistically could be entertaining, I feel like the main event might be more entertaining, but I really don't know because we don't know much about the guy Matisse's fighting besides his shiny record. But we'll get into that. Like I said, that'll be a little later in the show. Overall, though, let's get into Spence. Errol Spence Jr., who definitely making some waves just in general in the boxing community anyways. A lot of people think he should be already a star. Um, we could debate that all you want, but the whole point is he's putting in work. He is putting in work. He's definitely doing his job. And our biggest complaint was activity from late May till now. Well, he's already got a fight scheduled. And guess what? It's in Dallas. It's June, 19th? I'll get to the schedule. I think it's June 17th or something like that. But either way, he's in Dallas. The funny thing is, though, once people find out who he's going to fight, then they're going to complain again. They want people to stay busy. You got to remember, guys, if we want these fighters to stay busy, guess what? They're not going to fight high-profile fight after high-profile fight. I mean, if they did that, they'd have nobody to fight quickly. But not just that. It's not feasible. That's not how it works. But I do like that he's getting his homecoming. He is. He's getting his homecoming. They're going to do it in Dallas. So that's a good look. It's nice to already have a fight scheduled. That's been one of the biggest complaints, and rightfully so, with a lot of fighters in general, and definitely the ones that get talked about the most are clearly the Heyman fighters when it comes to that. Because he's got that big, he's got that big arsenal, right, that sometimes has really been lost. Other guys, they stay busy and move properly. Some other guys, they don't. So we're going to get into the actual fight, though, right? And like I said, people are going to be like, oh, this is bullshit. I'd rather him wait for somebody when they find out, because the IBF already came through and said he's got a mandatory. So he was given an okay, basically, to take a fight and not have to take a mandatory right away. And the IBF, generally speaking, are pretty stiff on that as well. So, but as far as the fight goes, he looked good. Spence really did. He came out early left hands, got his jab going, used his jab a lot. Sometimes he was just kind of range finding with it. Still throwing it with some authority, but not necessarily landing it clean. We know Lamont has that guard, that high guard, that generally makes it hard to land clean all the time, especially early. But of course, he got to the body, right? That's what Spence does, man. He is one of the most consistent body punchers in boxing. Now, Peterson in the second round, you could see him trying to close the gap. I wasn't sure. He landed a few right hands, but overall, Spence had a nice left hook to the body. Couple of late left hooks with a pivot. He was just busier in that second round as well. But Peterson, I thought he'd move more. I thought he'd kind of mix it up where he'd get inside or all the way inside and get really close so he could keep at range. But it's tough to do that with Spence because he has this kind of unspoken about footwork where he keeps himself clean enough to punch in distance, but he also stays out of range a lot more than a lot of come forward fighters do. The passive aggressive they talked about on the broadcast. I think that was I think that's pretty fair. Anyway, third round, got that jab going, got to the body. Then he started to open it up with the uppercuts. Hard left hands. It was a fun round, though, because in that round, the third round, you could see some hooks were starting to land for Peterson. There was two really good rounds that Peterson had. As far as landing some punches that you could see and feel almost. It didn't seem like Spence, it slowed him down, but that was a fun round, the third round. I thought the first four rounds would kind of play out a little bit more like the third round, but I think it had a lot to do with Spence showing a little bit more wrinkle in his game. The uppercut, straight left hands, just more of them. Once in a while. I think there was a nice left hand, a short right by Peterson in the fourth, but just steady work. He did get warned in the fourth round, I believe, third or fourth round. Spence did for low blows. But, I liked how he's like, okay, great. And he just goes right back to the left hook to the body and just put it up a little bit. And they showed the replay. It was actually on the belt, so it wasn't really low. Fifth round, obviously, the fight started to change. In that round, the punch stat total was 35-11 in favor of Spence. That's not to say, though, Peterson didn't do anything. There was a right hook, then a left hook, caused the knockdown, right? And how many times have we seen Spence cleaning people up with those sweeping kind of cross right hooks, right? Some of them sometimes overhand, but once he gets that going, it's tough to beat. But I'll say this. Peterson landed a few really nice right hands back in that round. And he showed heart. You're like, wow, looks like he's hurt, but every once in a while he throws a bomb back. And although it didn't really affect Spence too much, it got him to back up once. But it was fun to see the crowd kind of get into, oh, wait, now Peterson's landed some stuff back. We think we're about to see a knockout. Peterson landed a couple punches back. But other than the third and fifth round, that was it. More uppercuts, more kind of mixing up the body very well. I thought, and you could see the eye swelling. The right eye, I believe it was, definitely starting to swell for Peterson. But he mixed the variety of punching and it just seems like Spence knows what's there and he's going to take it. It's kind of like, a quarterback always trying to go, mid to down the field when it's like, dude, you got your check down there. Sometimes you just got to take your check down and get that first down or get those 5 yards or whatever. And to me, he was just mixing up the punches very well, punch variation in general. Seventh round, I think an early left hand and a good right hand by Peterson. And that was about it. He really started pouring it on. And after that seventh round, I mean, by the fifth, sixth, and seventh, you could just kind of see a different level of punches that were getting landed. You really could. It was just like, all right, dude, they're starting to add up a little bit now. It's starting to add up a little bit too much. And it was just a matter of time. In my opinion, it was just a matter of time. A lot of people thought that. And Barry Hunter, he knew it. He said he asked him a question, and he said he doesn't like what he sees, and he just didn't. He said, well, I'm down on the card, so I'm going to go for it. Lamont did. So you make your call, make your call, but I'm going for it, but he also said, well, it's up to you. And I think when the up to you part or whatever it was, I don't have the exact quote, right? But it kind of, he's like, I didn't like that part. He said he kind of left it up to me, and I thought he made a great call. There's no point in taking that much punishment. You got knocked down. I'm not going to call it a rally because it wasn't a sustained rally, but it could have been the most punches he landed in the fight that fifth round, per round. But after that, it was a wrap. So Spence got it done. There was a healthy crowd there, 12,000 people. I wouldn't doubt if it was right around 10,000 sold, 10,005 or something. We'll see. The numbers will come out. But good crowd, good, healthy crowd. And yeah, it's kind of cool that he's already got his next fight lined up as far as date and location in Dallas. So my guess is, though, that he'll fight, the IBF called for his Mando. The top two guys hadn't fought a title limit. There's nobody ranked there. Probably because they knew they were getting close to fighting Spence. They're like, I'm good. No, I'm just kidding. But the number three guy got this what is his name? I can't remember. Ocampo, something like that. He's got a glossy record. he's undefeated and whatnot, but he's from Mexico. He hasn't fought anybody, though. That's the thing, you know? So June 16th in Dallas is Spence's next fight. So, you know, this is part of being a belt holder. You know, after a while, though, like we're talking about a year from now, and, well, he's not going to be able to acquire another belt without facing, you know, Crawford or Thurman, but you just got to stay active, right? So sometimes you're not going to take the best fight. You got to keep that belt, though, because with Terrence Crawford in the division and top rank, you don't really want to put your belt out there and let them get that. You know what I mean? You got to have – I just think to have that unification, it means something. You know what I mean? It definitely means something. Now, it's different if they want you to fight somebody else and you want to fight Thurman and they're not allowing it. Then you'd have a chance to fight for two belts. That's a different situation. Or like Golovkin, you know, he stayed active, but he had multiple belts. So there was times where I said, you should probably just drop that. I don't want to even see that fight. I said that on one fight. And I said in the future, if that's the case, just drop the belt then. If you have multiple belts, though. He only has one and he just got it. So we'll see. It's going to be funny to hear the fans, though, because they're going to want him to stay active. And then they find out, oh, it's not going to be, you know, Keith Thurman? Oh, screw it then. Wait, you know, or some shit like that. It's just going to be funny. It's going to be funny to watch because that's, you know, that's how boxing fans are, especially the ones on Twitter that act like they're promoters, like they're in the business and they know exactly what makes a star. Everybody says Spence should be a star, and you know, it took Floyd Mayweather like 6-7 years of fighting on HBO to get lined up for that Gotti pay-per-view. Did well on pay-per-view, considering, right? It did pretty good. Then he fought Judah, another good one. Then he got that big Oscar fight after Baltimore or whatever, which actually did decent too, you know, for the amount of money he was getting. Then he fought Oscar, then he blew up. But it took him, you know, you got to keep fighting. You know, a lot of people keep saying all these guys should be stars. This guy should be a star. That guy should be a star. Although they're not really saying that about Lomachenko or Crawford, or they call Lomachenko and Crawford stars when those guys aren't stars. They're not crossover stars. You know, what about Gates? You know what? That's where Golovkin stayed busy and he kept building up his fan base actually at the event. So therefore now he can go anywhere now, but even to go in New York and sell out and then go to LA and sell out, that's huge. But if you look at Joshua, you look at Canelo, pay-per-view wise, who else is moving units? I do believe Golovkin could move units now because of him fighting Canelo. So I think we have a third pay-per-view guy now, but look what happened to Crawford when he went on pay-per-view. Look at even Golovkin when he went on pay-per-view when it wasn't worthy. So usually there's not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. A lot of people just think, well, Pacquiao and Floyd were stars. They're both doing million pay-per-views. Yeah, true. But they both fought Oscar, you know? So, and then you had like the mid-level guys who could go on pay-per-view and do it with the right name, like Cotto, right? But they weren't putting on Cotto with nobodies on pay-per-view all the time. So, you know, we have two huge names, Canelo and Anthony Joshua. They're moving units, obviously. I mean, what's his toes just went 70,000 in a couple days. 70,000 tickets already sold for Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. So I think everybody's just kind of caught up in this whole thing. And a lot of it has to do with Al Heyman and Bob Arum and the hate, the Golden Boy back and forth, HBO Showtime. A lot of it, and it can even go to Mayweather Pacquiao. A lot of it has to do with that when you come to the root of it. But I don't know. Like I said, I always take it case by case, fighter by fighter, fight by fight. And as far as Spence being a name inside of your avid follower, yes, he's a name. Even your common boxing man starting to get to know him. But as far as a crossover, hell no, he's not. But like I said, just keep fighting, keep putting butts in the seats, and that helps. And that's how you get there. And whether it's a highlight reel knockout that's going to be on ESPN that gets your name out there more, or you finally get a big fight with somebody, you really don't know. All I know is to have that CBS outlet, you could take advantage of that. And that's got to be like the pay-per-view now. That's the only way, because Floyd gave Canelo a chance to turn to be just a superstar. He's a crossover, but obviously he's not even as big as that, right? Because he lost the fight and it was clear. But I think we just need to get back to enjoying some fights, debating the outcomes, this and that, and not get so caught up in, oh, he should be this. Like if I was promoting him, well, dude, you're not a promoter either. So we could talk about it. We can throw some ideas on the wall, but we don't get paid at being a matchmaker in this business and keep your job. It's a tough job. It's not as easy as you think. But anyway, I digress and I digest because I did eat before this. But either way, Spence is keeping that train going. And say what you want, at least now they're putting them back. Because other than that, though, with Spence, the thing about Spence is I got a problem with this last layoff. Other than that, as far as Heyman moving him, I don't think you can't really cut him down that much. If you look at the looks he gave him in 2015, he put him on the Broner Porter, which got a nice peak rating. And overall got in front of some folks, right? Obviously, he was on a Spike card as well that year. He fought 4 times. Clearly, he got his main event in the Barclays. Now he's had another main event in the Barclays. He put on a display against Algieri. People knew him in that region anyway, to an extent. Not a big crowd, one of their smallest crowds in a long time. Not this last one, but the 2016 one. And then he put him in a spot where, right after the Olympic basketball gold medal. So I think he's moving him just fine. It's not his fault that Kell Brook in the IBF, because of his injury, they allowed him to heal, which they should. But you can't, when you're in that position, you can't always take fights. You got to wait. Unfortunately, in that little situation, you need to get that Kell Brook fight. But although it was on a holiday weekend here, so it didn't really put a dent in anything, but it did raise his profile in the UK. I mean, it did good on pay-per-view. It got a lot of hype there. It was in front of a huge stadium crowd, so it did him some good overall. So anyway, let's get away from that talk now. Let's get into the co-feature, because this had a lot of people going back and forth. The whole robbery thing, I think we need to calm down on that. If you look at the scorecards, you can't say robbery and then they're pretty decent scorecards. In fact, had he not got that point deducted, and we'll talk about that as well, Fortuna, he would have won the fight. So, you know what I mean? I think that's true, right? Yeah. I think he would have. Or maybe it'd have been a draw. Either way, let's look at the fight here, because it was a good fight. Fun fight. And I thought it'd be an entertaining, close fight for maybe half of it. And I actually called for Easter Jr. to knock him out. I really thought he'd knock him out after being in a competitive fight, because if you look at when he's faced the Comeys and the Shavakov, those are tight fights. And this is his third really tight fight. I did think, however, that he would fight a tad smarter and clear some space for himself a little bit at some point in the fight. But he didn't do that. He played right into Fortuna's hands. He came right at him. Now, sometimes he came a little more careful behind the jab. Other times he didn't. He smothers his own work. First round was really close. That was a very close round. I thought anyway. And like I said, right away, coming forward, using the jab, going to the body, but there were a few really nice right hooks and counters that Fortuna won, and that maybe, or that he landed, that could have won him the first round. That one's a close one. I haven't watched it again, but that was a close one. I thought the second round, well, obviously that's where the point deduction came in. And, don't get me wrong. Fortuna was hitting behind the head. He was holding the head in general. He did land some combinations in spots, though. He actually landed a nice right hand, a hard right hand, the best punch of the round. So whether you gave, maybe you gave that a 10-9, maybe you gave that a 10-8 because of, you thought Easter Jr. won the round. I'm not really sure. Was it too early? I think the left hand as well was pretty key, but was it too early of a point deduction? I'd say generally speaking, yeah, the way it usually gets called, usually, it takes a little while. You at least get a second warning. However, he had been roughing him up a little bit, right? Which we see all the time in boxing. But he kind of got him like near the rope and was hitting him by the head, and then he got a warning. Then he got another warning for a separate thing. So that was different. But then he got the point deduction right away. However, he went right back to it and did it, hit him in the back of the head. So you can debate it, dispute it. We usually don't see it that quick. I'll say that. I'll definitely say that. But I did think that Fortuna, he fought really well in this for him. I really think he did. Now, I thought Easter Jr. won the third. His jab and straight right hand. He just had a much smarter attack. Beyond, there was a decent rally, some looping hooks from Fortuna, but it wasn't enough. Now, I thought Fortuna, it was a strange round, the fourth round. Kind of early and late, it was a strange round. It picked up a little bit. You could see Fortuna was moving more, but he was landing these little quick little combinations. I thought that was enough for him to win the round. And it was kind of going back and forth in this one because then the fifth round I gave to Easter Jr. He started working the head and the body with hooks. It was a decent close by Fortuna, but not enough. Then it was a tit for tat round. The sixth round. Very close round. Easter did land a right hand, but then Fortuna landed a harder left hand, and it seemed to buzz Easter. So I gave Fortuna that round. Literally, the seventh round for me was the slowest round of the fight for one. And also Fortuna literally was running the last part. If you listen to the show, anybody that moves, I don't say that's running, but there is such a thing as called running in boxing. And I think that one where he got the last 8 seconds, he literally move, and got to a place where he wasn't doing anything. And when you're doing that, that's going to probably lose you the round. But it was hard to say, Easter was busier because really nothing a couple more lands. That's about it. But I gave that to Easter. The counter left hands was the best punches landing for Fortuna in the eighth. Ninth round, clean right hands. Few exchanges as well. And for me, I gave that one to Easter Jr. So after 9 rounds, I remember I had it about 4-4-1 because I gave it a 10-10 or a 9-9. The 10-point must system is a 10-9 or 10-10, whatever. But it's like a 9-9 if you go old school. If you think someone won the round but they lost the point because of the deduction, that type of thing. We're in my 10th round. I gave it to Fortuna. Early exchanges. Nice left hooks. And the fight definitely had its time where it was inside. This is one of those rounds. Very close round, but I thought Fortuna stole the round. Literally, the 11th round, phone booth. Hooks, landing hard, going to the body. Counter back with left hands. It was a very close round. Once again, some swing rounds in this one. I could have went 10-10 on that one. I really could have. I gave Fortuna the last round. the last part, he landed some nice left hooks, some few hard ones. The crowd booed. They were going for Fortuna by the end of the night. Literally, I could see a 6-4-2 or a 6-5-1 for Fortuna. I had it right around a draw because I had a 10-10 round, but it could have went either way. You know, I would like to see a rematch at some point. If you look at the punch total, Easter Jr. was a little busier. He threw 567 compared to 487. He only landed 23%. Fortuna just okay at 25. 130 to 120 as far as lands, though, Easter Jr. with just a little bit of a, of an advantage there. For Easter Jr., though, 114, 113, and 115, 111. 114, 113, Fortuna did have one of those cards. So literally one round here, one round there. I mean, it's I don't know. That was a tight fight. That was a tight fight for me. I'd like to see a rematch, and I thought Fortuna had a very good outing. That was one of the best outings against a good solid fighter that I've seen from him. Of course, Easter Jr. once again made it difficult on himself and played right into his hands. Like I said earlier, he went right to him. Fortuna wants you to come to him. That's his game. Why not just stay in the center of the ring and inch forward with that jab or something if you're going to come forward? Now, I'm not saying don't come forward ever. I'm not saying don't fight on the inside ever. But at least start to, handle the guy and get some rounds. And then maybe if you want to get closer and start working the body, I understand that. I get that. I'm not saying totally change your game plan. But, man, when he shows some shades of that jab, that long jab of the right hand, he could be an interesting, tough fighter, you know. But I'll give him this. I mean, Fortuna's a good opponent. So is Shavakov and so is Comey. And they've all been tight fights. And you've probably got to give one to the other guy at some point, right? And I kind of feel like this is one of them. So I actually, if you had a gun to my head, first of all, please don't do that. Second of all, here's my money. Third of all, I'd have to give it to Fortuna. I probably would. I thought he landed the more telling shots, and I didn't think he lost the round where he got deducted. So, that's where that comes in. Good fight, though. Competitive fight. Actually, better than most people thought. I thought it'd be competitive for 6-8 rounds, and then Easter would put it on him. I really thought so. I was wrong like most. Good fight. And that, I go back to that matchmaking. Everybody on, boxing Twitter think they're a professional matchmaker, and you have to follow my guidelines. Otherwise, any other fight's not acceptable. That type of thing, you know what I mean? This is another example of, hey, guys, give your opinion. Let it be heard, but then note to yourself that you're not a professional. And I'm saying it to myself as well. And this is a prime example of it. Some people thought, what the hell is Easter Jr. even fighting this guy for? This guy's bummy, that type of thing. It was going to be a blowout, So, like I said, I picked him by knockout. And I have Fortuna winning. So, or at least a draw. I want to see a rematch. I do. And maybe this type of fight would be the only way he'd change. Maybe facing a guy at 135 that has a lot of power in Garcia would make him change. But a close fight is not going to make him change because he's had 3 of them now, and he hasn't changed. You could make an argument that he's actually worsened a little bit with the style that he chooses, because at least in those other fights, there was times where he kind of got back into, all right, hold on, let me get my jab going, let me get my right hand, let me get a little distance, So, good fight, though. The undercard, Marcus Brown scores another early KO, this time in the first round. In 2016, actually on that Spence Algieri card, I want to say April 2016, I don't know. But anyway, he fought a guy named K-Rod. I think it's Kerr. I forgot how you say his name. He actually had only one fight since then. He's got injured. He got injured and stuff. Maybe 2 fights, but I remember him getting injured. Anyway, that was a split decision win, and there were plenty of people that thought Marcus Brown lost. It was a good step-up fight, and you could see he showed some deficiencies. Last year, he scored 2 nice knockouts. Now another one. To me, it's time to – I understand moving him lateral after a performance like that. Most promoters will. But now I think, all right, now it's time. And we have heard that the loser of Stevenson and Badu Jack is someone they're going to try to line him up for. I think that's perfect. That'd be perfect. But he's obviously going to have to fight again before that because they're not fighting until May. So I assume. And Marcus Brown, I don't know how many times he's fought at the Barclays, but he has the most. It's going to be tough to catch him because he's fought there so many times. There was another fight on, was it YouTube? And I think they streamed it on Facebook, right? Showtime did. Adam Kalinowski against, what's his name? Lago Kalaza, something like that. I forgot how to say his last name. It's one of those spelled a little funky. I think it's Kalaza. Anyway, I thought Lago actually won the first 2 rounds. But the action just started right away. Konaski, I think it's Konaski. He had a bloody nose. He had some good work early on and late. But other than that, I thought Kalaza won that round. And Lago was boxing well. They had some exchanges in the second round, especially late in that second round. But I thought he's boxing well. Gave him the first 2 rounds. Then I gave Adam the next 3. Or I'm sorry, the third and the fourth. He started coming on more. You could kind of see Lago fading a little bit. 30 seconds into the 4th round, a nice right hand by Konaski. And dropped him down. Got up, though, and started exchanging. And Adam was loading up on right hands. Right hand after right hand. There were some left hooks as well. 5th round, though, a bit of a rally. I'd say that Lago dude rally. He showed a lot of heart, considering. And then the 6th round, halfway through, an overhand right, and I think it was a left hook. Bunch of those combos, right, started affecting that Kalaza guy. Then a right hand finished the fight. That Lago dude did get up, but it was a wrap. It was over by that time. So, good heavyweight fight, and that's like back-to-back fun heavyweight fights for, I think it's back-to-back, right? Or is it 3 fights now? That is. He's been in some fun fights. He's not necessarily out of shape. His body needs to tighten up, but he doesn't look like gassed after like a round and a half or anything. But yeah, he's one of those fighters where you look at the body, you go, I don't know. But that Spilka fight was fun too. I thought that was a whole lot of fun, actually. So that was good. I like that one. Good fight. So, he keeps on moving on. I'm sure the Polish people are starting to get to him. The Polish fans are starting to make their presence felt little by little. Maybe him in like Brazil would be a good fight. That might be a good fight. So either way, good card. The main event, like I said, beyond rounds 3 and 5, where Peterson did land some bombs, it was one-sided fight. Not the biggest surprise there. I did think, though, that it'd be more competitive early, and then it would turn into one-sided. And like I said, Spence, man, he's really starting to show more. He even said, those other guys didn't make me move my head or move my feet, really. But this time you could see every time Peterson would try to come to him, for the most part anyway, he would take those little side steps, half steps back. He's very good with his footwork, very underrated with his footwork, and he got a chance to show it more this fight. No doubt about it. That was That was a great performance by him. And you could hear the crowd, wanting that fight with him and Thurman. And it's going to be one that they're going to, well, I shouldn't say milk. It's really Thurman that's going to milk it. But in the end, I'll say this. I think ultimately it's going to make it a bigger fight. And I know fans don't want to hear that. The old marination, right? Bob Arum, they'll go back to Juan Ma Lopez and, and Gamboa, and we've seen it. That's just one that stands out in the last several years, right? But we see it all the time. And Pacquiao, that Pacquiao fight, obviously, that Pacquiao Mayweather, I'm speaking of course, that one got, that one took forever. But anyway, ultimately, that I think it's going to happen next year on CBS. That's what I think. I think they'll use that same early March date. Fans don't want to hear it. I get it, man. I totally get it. But to me, Porter and Thurman have made, to take a Teddy Atlas line, a silent agreement to not fight Spence right now and fight each other. And they're going to use the mandatory, which, hey, I mean, it is what it is. The first fight was a tight fight. And anytime you got a tight fight, I think a rematch, I'm okay with the fight. I really am. If Thurman and Porter fought this year for the rematch, you're not going to hear complaining for me. And here's why. I've just been watching boxing long enough. I'm not a boxing historian. I'll never, ever say that. Okay? But I've been watching it long enough that if they're two quality fighters in the ring together, especially if the first fight was at least fun or competitive or whatever, then I'm not going to complain. I've just seen too many mismatches, too many showcases, too many all that. You're not going to get this guy to complain about that. You can call me whatever you want. You can call me just trying to spin everything positive. You can call me an Al Heyman nut hugger, whatever you want. But to me, I'm just not going to overly complain. Do I want to see Spence and Thurman? Hell yeah. But I'm just realistic. Maybe it's because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm very realistic. I try not to get too emotional. With boxing, not only that, but there's so much to complain about in boxing. That's another thing. There's just so much to complain about. Just like Al Heyman or the PBC. There's so much to complain about sometimes with that. Or Top Rank. Like I said, the February schedule, not a fan of it. March, I am. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Now, who knows? Maybe those fights in February turn out better once we get in the ring. You never know. It could be. Look at Oscar Valdez's last two fights. I didn't think those were going to be some tight fights that he need to pull out, but they were. They were. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But either way, they did get a rating of, 630, and it almost peaked at 700. A lot of people, dogging that. But if you look at Showtime's ratings, you got to look at Showtime's ratings and keep it in context. Also, they've been on the app stream for a long time. Those are not included. They've also been on Hulu for like 2 years. Those aren't included as well. Whereas you see ESPN and Top Rank, when they say Crawford's last fight peaked at 1.5, that's including the stream. So just keep that all in mind. This is a good January rating for them. It is. A lot of people lately have said when they see this other ratings or even this one say they should be doing 1 million. Showtime has done 1 million, averaged 1 million like 6 or 7 times since Nielsen started keeping track of this stuff. And that's been over 15 years, something like that. So let's keep it all in perspective. You had You hit Andre Ward and Carl Froch. You had about a year and a half of shoulder programming, and not just hype videos, actual fights, right? No, it dragged on, but people should have known more about Froch and Ward. I'll give you that. But that rating didn't do what this rating did. So you got to keep it in perspective. Some of those names, Canelo fought Trout. That did over 1 million. Canelo fought, who else did he fight on there? Juan Manuel Lopez, or not, Josecito Lopez. Sorry about that. Josecito Lopez. That drew over 1 million. Bernard Hopkins and Pascal. I believe that drew over 1 million. Cotto and Trout. That drew over 1 million. Broner and Maidana and Broner and Malignaggi. Those are the fights that went over 1 million. I think there's probably one or two more. Oh, wait. The first Wilder, where he, once again, there was hype to Wilder at that time. Like, can this American get a belt, right? And so that drew over 1 million. But like I said, I think it's like seven fights, 8 fights. I don't know. But in 15 years, to say that they should be average 1 million, sorry, man, it's just not. That's just not. I mean, they should, could, would, whatever you want to say, but you got to keep it in context. Got to keep it all in context. So just keep it moving. These fighters just got to keep fighting and keep building their name. And really, it's about putting butts in the seats. I go back to Golovkin. Stay fairly active. Try to fight 3 times in 12 months, right? Not even in one calendar year, because sometimes that just doesn't work that way. There's only so many arenas there, but let's keep it moving. A little news here. We're going to go to news, right? We're going to talk about the Showtime schedule, and then we're going to talk about Andre Ward, talk about Daniel Jacobs, talk about a big fight in the UK that just got made. So we'll catch you up with fight news. It's really not too much rumor mill. A lot of it's just straight up fight news announcements because, of course, today, Steven Espinoza he was the vice president of sports operations. Now he's the president in some sort of like event marketing. I don't know what his other title is, but they said that, he got a promotion, and it's well deserved. And you got to give it to Showtime. They really went for it, man. I talked about it. I won't keep repeating that. As far as, they had this space where they had all the fighters up there. They announced every one of them. They went head to head real quick. And then they all got to answer a question live, and then they were made available for the media. So obviously, we have some of these fights are going to be like Garcia Rios. Now, is that a fight that people are like, I mean, we already knew about it, but is that a fight that people are just super pumped about? No. They think Danny Garcia is going to walk over him, and it may be. It also may turn out to be like a couple years back, that Robert Guerrero fight, where it was really competitive, fun fight to watch. We'll see. We'll see what it turns out to be. However, for Danny, who hasn't fought since March, he took a little break. He said he needed to just shut down mentally and physically. It's a decent fight stylistically to come back to. Whatever. It is what it is. But the rating will do pretty decent. I think it'll do pretty good. And that's part of this stuff too. Your more common boxing fan knows Danny Garcia and Brandon Rios. Whereas us hardcores, more avid followers of the sport, we're going to be like, we already know what happens. You know what I mean? We already know what happens. Why do we need to see that? So I get that. That's not something I'm looking forward to. Same with the Mikey Garcia Lipinets. I'm not really, when the bell rings, I'm going to watch it, but I'm not really like checking for that fight. However, if you're talking about building your profile, it is good for his resume, right? And as he builds to bigger fights, to say only Manny Pacquiao And who else was it? Marquez? Or was it Morales? I think it was Mark. No, I don't remember. But only 2 or 3 people have accomplished going from 126 to 140, winning 4 straight titles through that. So it is a profile builder. It's like a resume builder, but it's not a fight I'm looking forward to, right? I'll say this, though, about the Garcia and Rios. I like the Benavidez Gavril rematch because we saw it in the fight. We saw it in the ring. I mean, play out. I think Gavril earned his shot at a rematch. That's a legitimate fight. Same with the undercard of Mikey. Well, first of all, there's a good, I think, is that a doubleheader or a tripleheader? Maybe they'll live stream a fight. But Richard Comey, who gave Easter Jr. a really tough fight, September 2016? Yeah. He's built him. He's trying to climb back in the rankings, and he took that Shavakov loss like 4 months later. That was a tight fight, good fight, but Shavakov won. I thought tight fight though. Now he's built back in the rankings, and it was a tight fight. But he's fighting. I think is it Oscar? Who is it? Is it Lara? God, I can't remember who he's fighting. But that guy's undefeated. Could be interesting. He's got some power. I like that fight. But the Bartholomew Relic fight, that was earlier last year. I was about to say earlier this year, like we're not in 2018. But that was a tight fight. That could have went either way. Didn't both guys get knocked down? To me, they called for a rematch and they got it. Now, we always say that here at Rope It Open Radio. If you're going to have a stay busy fight, hook up the undercard. And those are legitimate undercard fights. So do I like the main events? Am I pumped for them? Nah. No, I'm not. Of course, Wilder and Ortiz, it was kind of a tease, man. Speaking of Ortiz and Wilder, it was kind of a tease. And Dan Rafael picked up on it as well. I was looking at the Premier Boxing Champions site, and I noticed there's no banner for Showtime. Because usually, if it's a Showtime fight, it's going to have Showtime. You go look at it. It's right there. And it wasn't there. And you're thinking, is this the time they're going to use CBS? As it turns out, it sounds like they're not going to. Which, for me, I thought it was a good opportunity to use it. That CBS look at that time. They've taken advantage of, even on NBC or CBS, they've taken advantage of that early March date in the past. It's always drawn a good rating for them. But doesn't seem like they're doing it unless they're going to spring it on us. Who knows? Maybe. You know how they could salvage this? I talked about this the other day on Twitter. They could salvage it by putting that Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua fight on CBS the day before the Final Four. I know that's asking a lot, though. That's got to be some prime real estate, so to speak, right? That time slot. And it's probably going to be a huge preview show, is my guess. Because I think it's like, is it 6 on the East? I can't remember when that Final Four. I remember looking at the time, but I was hoping they'd do it. Looks like they're going to save the CBS for a little later this year, but I would have liked to seen it because that's going to build a fight and build Wilder. That would do a great peak number. And once you put out a commercial where it's like, I don't know, what's the combined records of those guys? No matter who they fight or whatever, because the common fan and the casual fan, they don't know these guys too much. They only know a handful of dudes. So if they see like some crazy number, I think it's like 65 or 67 knockouts and 65-0 or something and 60 knockouts. I don't know what it is, but I think that would draw eyeballs. I really do. I really do. But it is what it is. I also get it from a Showtime standpoint. They've upped their budget. Well, if you want to have a nice peak number and a good average, you put that fight, on Showtime. So I guess I could see both sides of that. So we know about those fights, right? And actually, on the co-feature, Jamal Charlo is taking on Hugo Centennial, which I like that fight. Centennial took a L, and now he's come back. Actually, on was it FS1 in August? He scored a nice knockout over Aleem, who Aleem had been making a little noise on the mid-level. And he knocked him out like fourth round, second round. It was a highlight reel knockout. So that's a good fight. That's an interesting fight, and that's for the WBC interim because, as we know, the WBC, the Golovkin belt at middleweight, they said, listen, you got to rematch Canelo, basically. You got to. They called for the rematch. They also said, though, that the winner of this fight, Centennial and Charlo, the Golovkin or Canelo would have to, if they want to keep the belt, they would have to fight him. Otherwise, they'd become a full champ. So that's interesting. Or they'd have to at least step aside him, or because we all know that unification fights take precedent generally over Mandos. Just ask Stevenson. Just ask Antonio Stevenson. He knows all about. Well, wait, that'd be wrong though. Somehow he's managed not to unify, but yet step aside. It put out some step aside money, but not really on this Alvarez. That whole situation's messed up. But anyway, I like how the WBC's like, we're going to do an investigation. Dog, it happened under your reign. Like, you should know exactly why this is happening. What are you talking about? We're going to do an investigation. Anyway, let's talk about some new fights that got made. And like I said, there's some high-profile fights, and there's some fights where you go, I'll take it. I like the Arislandi Lara Jarrett Hurd fight. It's a unification fight. It's April 7th. They don't have an exact venue just yet. I like that fight, though, because Arislandi Lara, now it hasn't been like Stevenson, but he's been out of the loop for a while as far as going against even a solid guy. It's been a while, man. I mean, I think one fight out of his last 4 or 5, Martirosyan, Vanez Martirosyan, that was a tight fight. That was a good fight, but that was May 2016. So that puts it in perspective. It's been 2 years since he fought somebody with a real live pulse. And also, it reminds me of Anguilla. When you saw these two lined up, by the way, in today's presser, it even reminded me more of Anguilla, the fight, because of the styles. They just come at you. They get hit a lot, but it usually doesn't stop them. So you could make a point and say Lara's going to outbox him easy. Well, he's going to outbox him, but it ain't going to be easy. It ain't going to be easy. I just think stylistically this is a fun fight. And I'll say this, if Arislandi Lara has aged, he hasn't taken much of a beating. So I don't know if it's just old age potentially or whatever. But he's got to be on his best behavior, let's put it that way. And I just think that it's going to bring, like when he fought Paul Williams, could it turn out to be that way, a 10-2 fight? Yeah, it could. Totally could. In fact, that might be exactly how it turns out. But I just think it'll bring the best out of Lara. The things that you liked when you first saw him fight, I think that'll bring it out of him. I really do, because he forces it. He forces you to fight. You can outbox Hurd, but at some point he's going to get close enough, and I just think it's a good fight. Am I touting it? Would I call my casual fans up and be like, dog, you got to see this? No, not necessarily. But it's a good fight. It'll work. It'll work for me. Then April 21st, this one's back at the Barclays Center. Adrian Broner versus Omar Figueroa with Gervonta Davis on the undercard. Gervonta Davis doesn't have a complete signed fight yet. It does seem like it was going to be Billy Dibb for a title eliminator to get back to that Japanese fighter. Problem is that Japanese fighter got caught cheating. there's a little bit of news that we didn't get to last week because it hadn't happened. But that dude got caught cheating. The one that beat Tevin, or at least on the cards beat him. That dude got caught cheating. I believe it was just the commission test, which is weak as hell. I don't think it was VADA. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they said the commission caught him. And that literally, they take your blood, you know, like to see if you're on drugs, like heroin or crack or weed or whatever. And then they do a piss test. The night of the fight, they do a piss test, like after the fight. But it's not this VADA testing. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that did get VADA, but I'm pretty sure that it said the commission caught the test. So if the commission catches you, that tells you you're cheating, and maybe for a while. So we might get that Tevin Farmer fight. You never know. We might get that fight with Gervonta. I don't know. Because will they call for a title eliminator when they got to give Tevin another crack at the belt if old boy cheated? And then if old boy cheated, they got to suspend him. Although we'll see what the investigation comes up with. Anyway, I happen to like Broner versus Figueroa. I think of Granados. I'm not saying they fight the same. Granados actually has some slickness and some skills on the outside. I don't think Figueroa has. But I think Omar Figueroa, as far as a come-forward fighter, is more hell-bent on coming forward. And there was times when Granados needed to come forward more and throw some more punches and not just say, well, I'm outclass him at spots, you know? I remember people were kind of dogging the Broner Granados fight. It turned out to be a barn burner. That was a fun fight. So I like this action fight. I really do. I don't think there's anything wrong with this fight. It's a good fight. Once again, it's at near levels. Now, Figueroa has to prove that he can make 140 again, right? He's supposedly nice and healthy. He does look thinner. A lot of times you can see it in his face. We'll see. That might be some drama just at the weigh-in, right? Just because Broner made like 138 something last time, who's to say? You know, it may play out like that Chavez Vera weigh-in. Remember, Bob said, we don't know the weight. We'll tell you when we know the weight. This will be the first time you have a weigh-in and we won't know the weight, you know, that type of thing. But it is a title eliminator at 140, so we'll see. We'll see. Then March 19th, this is the fight. This one's going to be in Quebec. Adonis Stevenson versus Badu Jack. Now, the ones that stand out are Wilder Ortiz and this one to me. I can't wait for this fight. It's May 19th, like I said, in Quebec. Good fight. That Alvarez dude who's been trying to be the Mando forever, he's fighting on the undercard. They're throwing him a bone. Hey, you want to fight on another undercard? But then again, he did step aside all that time. So at some point, he's got to pull the trigger too when he's in that spot, right? Anyway, it's a split site. It's going to be a split site because Keith Thurman is returning to defend his WBA and WBC belt on the night of May 19th. No opponent yet. That's going to be at the Barclays as well. The Barclays said they're going to do anywhere from, what they've been on, the 6 to 8. They did 6 last year. I think they did 5 or 6 the year before. So it all kind of matters what fights can be made. You know what I mean? You never know. Sometimes it just kind of gets lost and maybe they won't. But 6 a year, I think it's just perfect. 6 or 7, that's fine. 6 to 8, whatever. But we don't know who Thurman's fighting. And if it's not Jesse Vargas, which it sounds like, I still don't believe that he wants a tune-up. Jesse Vargas isn't a tune-up. He'll be out by that time for 14 months. I wouldn't face Jesse Vargas if I were him. Either way, they better hook up that like a co-feature with that one too. but it's a split site, so I guess you can kind of say that is the co-feature. Or maybe they'll have him first there, and I don't know how they're going to work that. Yeah, they'll probably have Thurman fight first, because Quebec would be on that. I don't know. Whatever. But either way, Thurman's back. We'll see. We'll see what he does after that. Like I said, I believe that him and Sean Porter have made a silent agreement to fight each other and live up to those mandos. Because remember, while Keith Thurman is saying, hey, I got a mando to take care of, we all know, I just said it, a unification can take precedent over a mandatory. That's just the fact. So we're not going to see it. In fact, I believe he said at the presser, don't quote me, I don't know for sure, but I believe I saw right before the show started that he already said it ain't happening this year. So what I do think, though, now that, basically Spence is in Thurman's position a little while back. Don't duck me, son, right? All that stuff. Now he's in he got married. He's been on vacay. He had some shade in a vacay. You know what I mean? So he got, he's had injury though too. Most of it has been injury. If you look at even that delay on the Porter fight, that was injury. But after that, he waited around for Danny because Danny needed a tune-up. And I don't know. We'll see. I think it'll build the fight, though, because now people used to love Thurman saying, dude, he'll fight anybody, this, that, and the third. Now they don't like his ass. And that's how it happens that quick, man. And we're talking about the hardcore boxing fans. We're talking about the avid followers. The common boxing fan, and especially the mainstream guy, they know Thurman because he's been in your area. He's been all up on your tube. He has a lot of him and Danny Garcia are very known, whether it was being a co-feature, on a Floyd fight or just being in that big rating. People know him, but the hardcores, man, they're going to turn. And the hardcores and the avid boxing fans, they talk to the common fan and the casual fan. And so I actually think it'll make it a bigger fight. But yeah, I thought we were going to see that fight this year. And so I am disappointed with Keith. But like I said, you're not going to hear me bitch about Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter, which was a 7-5 fight. There's too many things to complain about in boxing to get pissed. And it's not like they milked that fight, the Porter fight. It's not like they went right back to the rematch. This will be 2 years. If they do it this year. If they do it this year, who knows, right? The ongoing joke is, one time. He only fights one time. I'd be surprised if he only fought one time. But then again, if you're in Spence's shoes, dude, I'm sorry, if you're in Thurman's shoes, you take a tune-up, you fight Thurman, now you got 2 full fights. Now I'm ready. Now, if that's where we're going with, and next – he fights in May, then he fights later this year, whatever, fall. Then they fight in March. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. It's not great. It's not ideal, but this is boxing we're talking about. I already mentioned June 16th, Dallas, Texas. The boys coming home. Errol Spence is going to defend his belt against an unbeaten Mexican fighter that people are going to complain about. That's just how it's going to go. Because the IBF came out and said, hey, by the way, it's not final. You can unify, but who the hell is he going to unify with? Unless they make up some belt or something like an interim belt and they count it as unification. I don't know. We're going to find out what Danny Garcia is all about too. Because if Danny's going to fight Rios, who's he going to fight? Who's he going to fight later? My guess is Jesse Vargas. That's what I'm saying. Personally, I think it's going to be Jesse Vargas. Because think about it. Danny's already got a built-in excuse. I fought in February, dude. I'm ready. Spence is fighting in June, dude. He's already tied up. I can't fight him. I can't fight him. Now, we've already known what Danny's about, and he went through that moment where he was the underdog and he'll fight anybody, and then let me just hold off, and it happens. It happens later in your career. We see this all the time. Another fight that I'm looking forward to, June 9th. I believe it's at the Staples Center. They haven't officially announced it, like 100%. As the announcement come out, they can't just release tickets for everything all in one day either. So you got to keep that in mind too. It's not really the best way to sell tickets. Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Mares. It's a rematch from a really solid, fun fight. A fun fight to watch back in 2015. Also, Jermell Charlo, the other part of the dynamic duo, the WBC 154-pound champ, Jermell Charlo, is going to face somebody. Don't know who yet, but he's on that co-feature. That's a good look for him. He's been fighting. I think he fought back-to-back Barclays in New York City. Now they got him in L.A. Spread him out a little bit. I like that. I would like to see later this year the Charlo twins get a fight in Houston. That's a must. You got at that point you'd have, if they both win, obviously, you'd have two champs. I mean, they've already become champs, but now they're like champs that have a belt. You know what I mean? Not just because we know, the other Charlo, Jermall, he went up in weight, so he doesn't have a belt. If you got two active champs, I don't know how you can't sell something in Houston with those two. They got to do it. I'd really like to see that. Now, if one of them takes a big fight, then they probably are not going to get the home court, and that's cool too. Just like Spence, if he was going to fight Garcia or Porter or something like that, well, then I don't expect him to fight in Dallas, So that's a wrap. I know a lot of people on Twitter, right? The boxing Twitter, which is hardcore for the most part. Well, no, it's not actually. It's just a mixture of all sorts of shit, isn't it? It's fanboys and hardcores. And then, the common boxing fan, or even the casual, they're just kind of sitting back and watching this shit. They don't comment. They may like or retweet, but they just sit back and watch it and get informed. They don't comment a lot. But once again, I think Mares, the way he showed himself in that fight where he went back to some of the boxing that he has. We saw it against Ponce de Leon. And I saw him as an underdog fight differently. Still active, still sharp, still landing punches, but just smoother, pivoting and using his athleticism. And a lot of people thought he was going to lose his second to last fight. But he showed a different style. So if he brings that style to Leo, that makes the fight a little different. Think about Frampton and Leo. First time around, you thought, well, dude, it's a wrap. Frampton, when a counter puncher and an outside fighter has, beats you, he's only going to do it worse the next time, right? That's generally how that works. But then Leo showed us something else in that fight. And it all spawned from the Abner fight. Because remember, Abner rushed his ass. Remember that? He rushed his ass at the start. You had Leo looking at the ref like, dog, what's going on here? I'm the guy who rushes shit. So the first couple rounds, it took him a little bit to get his own medicine. Then that jab came out. Then he started to pivot. Then he started to use some of his skills, and he blended like a brawling exchange style and just nice fundamentals. So we saw Leo that was like the shades of Leo in the rematch that he actually put it all together. And that's not to say Leo can't, switch it up a little bit too. So I like the fight. It kind of feels like what I was just explaining. Two quality fighters fighting. They wanted to do the rematch in the Staples Center again. It sucks that it's June. The whole thing was to fight in October, to pump it up, put it on Fox. It got a decent rating. I think it peaked at over 2 mil. And they wanted to get it in the spring. I thought, okay, that works for me. Then they wanted to try to get a venue in LA. And the Staples Center, I believe this was the first available date. They have a couple of different professional, sporting teams there, and then also just the entertainment coming through that place. It's a busy ass place. So I think they put in was it 11 or 12? I don't know what it was, but they had a healthy crowd the first time. So once again, us hardcores are bitching about maybe the fight. I'm not, but the date I am. It's just so far off. But the casual fan and the LA boxing fan and the Mexican-American fan, they're going to show up. It's not like they're going to boycott the thing. I remember seeing that here once in a while. They'll never, because this is when the PBC was just starting, and the LA fans will never, support a Heyman fight like that. And then for featherweights to even putting 8,000, 9,000 in the Staples Center for featherweights, that's damn good. So I don't mind the fight, I'm going to say this right now. When that bell rings, I think it'll be entertaining. You're not going to forget everything you were bitching about, but I bet you at the end of the night, people are going to be happy. I really do. I think that style matches up. I don't have a problem with the fight. I really don't. I don't like that we got to wait till June for it. But like I said, it's not a fight that's just high on my radar. So that's a pretty good back burner fight. Maybe the Forum, maybe StubHub. I would have liked to seen them. Well, we know the StubHub got rented. In February, the Forum's in use. The StubHub's getting used in March from Oscar Valdez for Quigg. That's a good fight. So I would have liked to seen it in April, though. That's for sure. Anyway, that about wraps it up. And by the way, there was a little change in well, as we know, Mikey Garcia, that fight got postponed a month, which that's kind of cool, really, if you think about it. At least it wasn't dragged out or anything like that. It's still in San Antonio. And in fact, right now, if you had a ticket to the first fight, or not the first fight, but the scheduled fight coming up in February, you have a 36-hour window, which is down to probably 24 hours, maybe a little more. But you can go in there and use the ticket you bought in Ticketmaster and kind of just say, okay, it's like priority ticketing, meaning you guys get it first right now. I'm assuming you can get a refund too. But then after that, I think is it Friday that it goes on sale? But just a heads up, those who did buy some tickets, just a heads up. And I'm sure they've already emailed you that news. Maybe you haven't checked your email. I'm just out here trying to help the common boxing fan. Right? So yeah, that's something that you may want to figure that out, because right now is the time you can go in there. It's kind of like the pre-sale stuff, where they say, hey, you don't have to pay the tax on the ticket if you buy it now. The Barclays have been really good at that. Hey, every little bit counts. I think they had for this last show, they had a holiday. I believe they had a holiday show, or a holiday ticket discount where you don't have to pay the tax. That's cool. Why not? That's a good look. So March 10th in San Antonio. Like I said, they got a new venue. It's not the Alamo Dome. They tried to make that work, but it didn't work out. Who knows? Obviously, it's always weird in there. I remember when they did the Broner Maidana fight. It did 11 or 12,000 or something like that, I believe. But it always kind of looks funky because it's such a big ass place. They always shut down a good chunk of it. But Whereas this one, this venue's a lot more. This venue only seats like 11 or 12,000. So this fits a lot better. It's the Freeman Coliseum. The tickets, basically, here we go. Ticket information. Those holding tickets for the original date, Alamo Dome, will receive priority on seat exchanges for the new venue. Ticket prices, same price, 20, 50. I think it's the same price or close, 20, 50, 75. So they have 3 price points under 100. That's a good look. 20, 50, 75, 150, and 250. So keep that in mind. I think it's either Thursday or Friday they actually officially go on sale for the general public, not the purchasing public. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, not a great fight by any stretch, but it'd be nice if they made that Linares fight. We'll get to that Linares fight and the Matisse fight, the HBO doubleheader. We'll also get to the one I'm really looking forward to on the weekend. Unfortunately, the World Boxing Super Series was not able to score a TV deal here unless they announce it, which it wouldn't shock me if it was on some random channel. Kind of like how, what was it, halfway through or after a couple of them, they put it on that audience channel. Hopefully they give us a legal stream, though. You know what I mean? That's the least they can do for us U.S. fight fans, man. Hopefully they can make that happen. We'll see. We'll see. Other news. There is a pretty big fight UK-wise and at the featherweight division. May 19th, Lee Selby versus Josh Warrington. I think that's going to be in Leeds, England. That's a good fight. You got, 2 top 10 guys going head-to-head at the featherweight division. That's a fight they've talked about for a while. So that's cool. It's a good fight. I think that's a good fight for sure. Remember the Contender Series from the mid-2000s? Well, it's back and better than ever. No, I'm just kidding. Epics, the Contender Series. And I heard, don't quote me on this, but I heard that that they're going to use middleweights. And if that's true, I don't know, man. There must be they're just looking at that because obviously they're not going to use stars or whatever, but I don't know. That's a little, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I don't know how to look at it. You know what I mean? I really don't know how to look at that. That's kind of interesting. But it's on Epics, which is one of those paid. You got to pay for it, premium cable. But I don't know, man, because HBO basically has the middleweights. So, but like I said, it's not all about that as far as having stars because they can't afford stars for one. Although I did hear it's a pretty good payout though. So that's a good look. Hopefully it gives some fighters we haven't heard much about, an opportunity. Opportunity is opportunity, and a lot of people will take it. There's only so many TV dates to go around per se, right? And we'll see. We'll see if it, with any tournament, you got to find out who's in it. But yeah, they're all in on the Contender Series. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some good brawls. They did say no slow motion during the fights, which thank God, because that shit was getting cheesy, dude. It's like, really, dude? Slow motion parts? Like, come on, dude. I get some of the effect. Show the slow motion during the round or something, or the round break, or after the fight. But can't just go from real live to, they got greedy with that thing. You know what I mean? But it was effective for a while. Was it NBC and then ESPN for 2 years, I believe? It was, it had its faults, but overall, it was okay. Whatever. Anyway, that's back. Sound really excited about it, don't I? Daniel Jacobs as we know, he's got a date on HBO. April 28th is that date. Sounds like it's coming down to Spike O'Sullivan or Andy Lee. I would prefer Andy Lee. That's actually a fight that I've talked about for him for a while now. I've really wanted to see him get this fight. I think it's a good style matchup. I like it. I don't mind that one. That's a good keep the momentum going fight. I would like that fight. That would work. Spike O'Sullivan, it is what it is. It's not as attractive. It's not as attractive just because he just fought a guy he easily beat. So whereas Andy Lee, at least you come in there and you go, okay. Now stylistically, I think both of them will be interesting. So we'll see though. It's nothing finalized or anything like that. So hopefully he gets a date here. The not a date, but hopefully he gets that figured out soon. I think it's at the Barclays. I think there was another venue as well that he had on hold, but not quite sure about that. But I believe it's at the venue. And by the way, I remember the Brooklyn boxing brand. That's a mouthful. You know how they wanted to try to do different venues, not to kind of start the mid-level prospect stuff and keep that going and kind of funnel that so it's still in the New York area and kind of funnel that to the Barclays, right? Which makes sense. Well, they have Webster Hall now in Manhattan that they're going to start. This was at the presser today. They mentioned this. So Webster Hall, just a small space, right? But this stuff's important in New York, and 2 falls ago, they didn't have prospect stuff. They still don't have a bunch of stuff, but they're also going to use another, I guess they kind of remodeled the Paramount Theater in Brooklyn. So they're going to have the Brooklyn and Manhattan venues for the prospects, the mid-level stuff, the guys that you're going to develop in front of the hardcores in New York City. So in families and friends and all that type of stuff. So that's cool. That's cool, man. Like I said, I think what the Barclays have done for the sport has been really nice, man. You could tell just off that. Most people thought Peterson was going to get blown out of the water. As it turned out, he did. But they still put a healthy-ass crowd in there, man. So that's a good look. That's a good look. I think it's just one more piece of newsworthy item here. And in fact, I got to mess with my switchboard momentarily. I just got a text. I'm just going to reboot it really quick and make sure that it's working here. All right. I think so. I think the reboot is gonna work here. So yeah, it looks like I see some people coming in. I did notice some people drop out, so maybe someone hit one and it sometimes it'll just like screw up the whole system. You just never know. One more piece of news that I'm really looking forward to here. Although, I don't want to go over the top either. Andre Ward. He recently went to social media with a message, and it's kind of interesting. Now, if you look at like accomplishments and name recognition and just name, not necessarily recognition, inside boxing, of course, but what he did at 68 and at 75, beating Kovalev like that, unifying, having multiple belts that he released because pretty much everybody below that doesn't have a name. If Badu Jack beats Stevenson, I think he'd have a pretty healthy name because he was on that undercard and he performed very well, that Mayweather-McGregor. So yesterday, Andre Ward, I'm looking right off Twitter, he said, weighed in last night at 199. And you're like, what? Because I remember there's a video of him stepping on a scale, and he said, all muscle, I promise. I've been working. Then, like not long ago, he said, we're working on something special. So, what's that mean? I don't know. I mean, obviously going up in weight, clearly. But does it mean in the summertime? It's real vague. Who knows? I don't have a clue. No clue. Is he going to fight Anthony Joshua this summer? I really hope not. I really hope not. Cruiserweight wise, as far as those belts, he could be looking into cruiserweight. And there's a couple reasons why. If you think about it, in May, the cruiserweight division will be completely undisputed, unified. Right? Or at least, yeah, I think it's because I think one of the belt holders got stripped. There was some bullshit about a belt holder that he lost, then got it back. Who was that? But anyway, let's say Gassiev or Usyk, who that's the favors to move on to the finals. There's going to be 3 belts that they have. So for him to go up another weight class, be kind of interesting. And you look, you say, well, he's already at 199, dude. He's going to heavyweight. Could be. But he's lifting weights. He's not in camp. So you got to put on bulk because in your camp, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose weight in camp. Like when you're, really getting down to the meat and potatoes, where you're really grinding and sparring and doing all those runs, like long runs and that type of thing. So it's a little different. A little different. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think it would have to be something like that, though. Unless he wants to go against Wilder. And they're gonna just assume that Joshua is gonna fight one more fight this summer, and Ward's gonna take him. I have no clue. Because although it's cool to move up in weight and beat like just a random dude up there, it is what it is. But who's he gonna beat? Like Brazil? Is he gonna go up and fight Brazil? How much money? Although I'm not trying to. I think that there's, I don't know, something to going to heavyweight and fighting somebody. Like, oh, that's impressive. Great. Anyway, but money-wise, what would a Brazil fight bring? I'm just using Brazil as whatever, So I don't know. I like Shannon Briggs. Could he get some attention? Yeah, he could get some attention, but what's that going to bring? I just don't, you know what I mean? I just don't, at this point, if it's not an accomplishment or something, Tony Bellew, maybe he's maybe the Tony Bellew UK fight, if he were to get past David Haye, maybe that's something he's looked at. Or maybe after that fight, he would move back down to cruiserweight, would Bellew, because he still would hold a Empress super champ shit, that type of thing. So I guess we'd have to consider that a little bit. I'm just trying to think aloud. That's what we do here, right? We just throw shit on the wall and just a bunch of hunches. And sometimes it's a, educated guess. But I don't know. But Andre Ward said he's got something planned. Really intrigued, at least. To say the least, I'm intrigued. And I just don't think he'd come out of retirement to fight Joe Schmo. In the Bellew thing, maybe it would be him fighting Bellew or Hay winner, and that would do big numbers there. It really would. It would do numbers there. It would do numbers in the UK. So I don't know, man. It's kind of a head scratcher. Kind of a head scratcher. Little lost when it comes to that. So we just got to stay tuned. But he said he's got something planned, man. What in the world could it be? I hope it's something. But yeah, I'd say the winner of the tournament, potentially. Although that's not a lot of money here because the shit's not even on television here. As of right now, anyway. So, yeah, I'd have to say Bellew. And then what do? Go to the UK and then Bellew loses and it says, all right, well, I can't fight Hay. Maybe that's it. And that's what, May 5th or something like that. So that, like I said, that's a pay-per-view fight over there. Bellew kept fighting, kept building up his name, and then that Hay put him over the top pay-per-view wise. He had a stadium fight. He just started impressing, and at cruiserweight, at bigger weights, so that would be my guess. Tony Bellew against David Hay, the winner. That way it gets him plenty of time. It's a money fight. All the things have to add up, That's the thing. Everything has to add up. He's not just going to come out here and just fight some blasey blah shit. I just doubt it. Actually, I see my guy CT on the line. I'm going to go to him in just a moment. If you are listening on YouTube right now, streaming live, I'm going to shut that down. Okay? All you got to do is go to blogtalkradio.com/ropeitoradio. There's a link right in the description box. Or, because you might be just watching this on your phone, 646-381-4990. I'll repeat that. 646-381-4990. That's the number to call. You'll be able to listen to the rest of the show. There's a good chunk of it left, over an hour left. So just so you know, if you are in the YouTube, I am going to shut that puppy down here in just a few minutes. I'm going to let my guy CT come on. And you can't hear CT because he's not in the YouTube chat room. He's on my switchboard at Blog Talk. So, yeah, or maybe you don't have time to do that right now. You can listen to the full podcast later. That's cool. If this is your first time, Rope It Up Radio podcast streams live every Wednesday. blogtalkradio.com/Rope It Up Radio and YouTube for a chunk like it did tonight. You can check it out at iTunes, Player FM, Spreaker, Stitcher, a lot of different outlets for it. And also the gruelingtruth.net. Go visit them. The Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. It's boxing, it's football, it's basketball, and more. It's also available on iHeartRadio, which is pretty cool too. They got a great sponsor over there at the Grueling Truth, mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. This Usyk and Briedis fight, I'm looking forward to this. Now, the dude Matisse's fighting, he hasn't fought anybody. In fact, I think his second to last fight, he fought a dude making a debut, but you never know. I think he's a Thai fighter. You never know. You never know. But the Jorge Linares fight and Mercito Hesta, that shouldn't be a co-feature on HBO. God bless Mercita Hesta. We've had him on the show years back. He's nowhere near on that level. Now, Matisse is faded. He looked better at 147, but you never know what he's got left. He even said I only have like 4 or 5 fights left recently. So that could be like a barn burner and then Matisse wins. I don't know. I just don't know much about this guy because he hasn't fought anybody. And I refuse to watch like 6 fights of his just to be fooled, you know? So literally, this could be a really fun fight that surprises us, or it could be a mismatch and be over in 6 rounds. I'm just being honest with you. My guess is Matisse is going to win, you know? My guess is, I shouldn't say guess. Matisse will win, unless he's that faded. And Linares, let's hope he gets out of here unscathed. He should look really good. He should look really good, actually. And then him and Mikey can fight if Mikey comes through his fight. That's in March. I want to watch that fight. As far as the other fight, Recap-Usyk and Marius Briedis, you know, skill for skill, Usyk, clearly. You know, the Ukrainian has that pedigree. He's pretty much, I mean, the Glowacki took care of him. He's taken care of everybody except one fighter was kind of tough on him. But Briedis has skill. He's got a jab. He does have some fundamentals. So maybe fighting a guy like that will be a little harder because he's like, hey, I mean, I've never had to try to outbox a guy that wants to outbox me. But then again, I really think that he's going to have to make it rough, Briedis. I think he's going to have to hold and hit like he has prior, like he did against Hook. He's got to limit what Usyk does. And how do you do that? You rough him up. If you look at the only guy that pushed Usyk any bit was Michael Hunter, who was really an inexperienced cruiserweight, but he put on a hell of a fight. Now, it should be said that Usyk tried to go out there and fight a more aggressive style as well, right? That was really the only fight where you're like, wow, he's actually losing some rounds and stuff like that because Marco Hook was so past it his last fight in the quarterfinals that you can't really look at that fight. But there is something to be said about that Michael Hunter. Now, he took a lot of punishment in that fight, though, Michael Hunter did. So, yeah, he was able to win some rounds and also land big punches on Usyk. But he took so much punishment in that fight. I have Alexander Usyk to win a clear decision. I don't think he'll knock him out, but who knows? But, yeah, hold, hit, brawl, use your jab. That's what Briedis has to do. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the YouTube stream. Just so you guys know, 646-381-4990, or go to blogtalkradio.com. There's a link right in the description box. I appreciate everybody that listened tonight. I'm going to shut that down. Obviously, if this is a couple days, same thing. If you're only hearing a chunk of the show, go right there. It'll send you right